Welcome to Puck Talk CS. I'm Matthew Mugno alongside Steve Murno. New York Rangers lost last night in overtime on home ice yet again to the San Jose Sharks. We're going to unpack all that, opinions, thoughts, the whole bit. No, we're not taking a dime to say any ads. That's not us here at Puck Talk CS. We are not in the field. Listen, no hate to ESPN, but running an ad while we're talking about a gambling ring was probably not the most ideal situation yesterday. Plenty going on in the sports world. The New York Rangers, yeah, they could use a Shohei Ohtani, that's for sure, after his performance to send the Dodgers to another World Series. Steve-O, although it is the sports equinox, best time of the year, leaves falling, college football game day. The New York Rangers are our focus here. Things aren't going great in Rangerland, but I think today's episode we're going to dig through what the positives are too, to try and keep things optimistic, but also be realistic and point to the pretty obvious underlying things that are going on in the Rangers world.
Yeah, and we're a month in now, so we could jump in and dive right in here because this is a pretty telling month of the season and where this team is going to be in the future. So agree with you. Let's talk some puck, baby.
All right, Steve-O, first and foremost, the loss last night, I thought that was their C game. Like, obviously it wasn't their best. I didn't mind the run and gun. It's early in the season. If this is run and gun and it's February, then you're saying to yourself, like, where's the structure? Um, but it's still early, and I think they've played really structured through the first 8 games. So, all right, or 7 games, eighth game, okay, fine. It was a little loosey goosey, right? Um, Macklin Celebrini looks like the real deal. The Rangers have played 6 out of their 7 games, they played a first overall pick. Interesting stat. I saw Starman put that up, who was great in the post game yesterday, on MSG. But overall thoughts, I think what hurts is that in a run and gun game where you're getting goal scoring from Taylor Raddysh, a player that's playing above his honestly above his pay grade. Um, I think Igor making that pass, if this is like 2022, we're like, oh, that was cheeky. He tried that pass. I think in last night's situation, that's a giveaway in my book. That's like in volleyball, a free play. So I actually thought that's what led to the goal. And I know there were a lot of defensive breakdowns. Mark of a bad team is giving up goals in the last 10 seconds of periods that we saw twice last night. But overall, I think that was the difference. So um, I think I'm kind of in the middle of the extremes of like, this is the worst team in the world. And also, like, obviously, I don't, at this point, don't see this team, contending for a championship.
Yeah, but listen, I I, I don't want to come on here and be like so negative and change the tune, and I think you're right on that point. But I mean, to start the year winless at the world's most famous 0-4-1, I mean, that is just unacceptable for me. No matter even to start the year, and we haven't. It's not like the Avalanche or the Devils or top tier teams. Carolina's coming in and beating us. We're talking about the San Jose Sharks, a team that has not won a game up to this point in the year. They're coming in and just like really coming out and looking really strong. And I think, finishing the first month of the season now, the month of October, and not having a home win, and just all the games that we played at home so piss poor. I mean, that is very concerning to me. I think road trip right now is perfect. I don't want to play another home game in the next 2 weeks. I mean, that's how bad we are. I mean, it's frustrating to sit there. I mean, what is going through your mind now that we've played all these home games? Watching these games, what are you thinking? Because I'm frustrated. I'm a little bit past the point where I'm like, it's early, it's okay, it's one game. No, it's been multiple games. It's been a month now, and to come out MSG, I mean, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, I think what the concern for me actually is that you're 1/10 through the season. And I know 1/10, okay, there's 9 more tenths. But it's just the fact, like you said, it didn't register in my brain that, now this team goes on a road trip, which could be a very good thing for the program. But overall, this club needs a win at home. Maybe they get some juices flowing on the road and things start to click a little bit better. We've seen that in the past with this team, with this club, specifically 23-24. But when they come back, their first game is against the Carolina Hurricanes, primetime television. And it's a team that, although they're banged up, they will likely be missing Keandre Miller too. So we won't see a revenge game there. They're 6-1. They lead the division. They're tied with New Jersey. So um, you're going to face some challenging teams on the road too. It's not going to be a cakewalk. A lot of times, I know I mentioned this last episode, teams kind of gel on the road too. It gives them an opportunity to become a team, right? There's some core pieces that are back, but I don't think this team has had an opportunity or an experience that has united this group yet. Every group is different. After a championship loss, you always hear uh, whether a team wins or loses. Later on in the offseason, if the team wins, you hear players upset that they're losing those teammates from free agency, trades, etc. And when a team loses, you usually often hear immediately after that they're upset they couldn't get it done with this group because you still have core players, but a lot of those guys move on. The Sam Carricks, the Taylor Radishes. I also think there's some very obvious things, Steve, and I don't think it necessarily has to do with whether they're playing on Broadway, under the bright lights of Broadway, or on the road. They need top six scoring, and I think Will Cooley and Alexi Lafreniere. It's funny how quickly things now pick up in today's day and age. Sullivan answered a question about it, and now the entire internet. This has been the conversation. How have you felt about their play? I feel they're supposed to be supporting those top players, Miller, Panarin, and Zibanejad. I really don't think they've been there. I think they've been rather pedestrian. And although Lafreniere is disappointing, I actually think Cooley may be a little bit more because I feel like we really haven't seen his brand of hockey through 8 games.
Yeah, I think you're right. They haven't played up to par. I'm actually on the opposite side. I'm a little bit more disappointed in Lafreniere than I am with Cooley. Cooley had such a dog of a year last year, and that by no means is that an excuse to slop off here in the first month of the season. But you kind of expect that coming in out of him, him having such an amazing first year, coming in next year. You kind of expect a little bit of a drop off. Lafreniere, I mean, the expectation for him, I think, really couldn't be more clear. And I look at it here. When you take a look at it, you need better numbers. There's no way to say it, And this team does need top six scoring from the core, but they need support from everybody. This is not a team. We've talked about this all the time. We always talk about the same things, but it shows you how crucial it is. This team needs all members of the core to step up and thrive. Even supplemental pieces. You want to call Cooley a supplemental piece. Even when he's on, it gets Panarin going. It gets everybody else going. This team starts cooking. And I do agree with you. Will Cooley, I'm okay with giving a little bit more of a leeway. But Lafreniere, I need numbers from him. I really need to see results from him. It just gets to the point where you look at, the same conversations of Hedel and Kako and, the expectation, even throw Keandre Miller in there. I mean, you take a look at what the Sharks had, the Sharks young guns last night, they were on display, and it kind of gives me a little bit of flashbacks to when we had our kid line and the hope for all these players. And, it's just, looking at the Sharks, and comparing it, it's what we had hoped for Loff and Kako and Hedel and Miller, what they were going to look like back in the day, and it's possible that the Sharks group doesn't age well either. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen. But I mean, the Sharks young talent looked really good last night, and Loff has been a problem, man. I don't know if again, to echo that same point to the core, it's not just something that I believe you're going to see a flip overnight and Lafreniere come out and score 10 goals in 8 games. Like it's tough. You have to perform.
You have to perform, Steve-O. And For the folks that are on audio, we have his game log pulled up. He's earned more ice time this year. He's averaging about a minute and, sorry, folks, got that cough going on, a minute and 18 seconds more per game. And that's power play time. He did have a power play assist last night on the Mika Zibanejad goal. He also had a turnover to end the second period that tied the game up. Macklin Celebrini scoring that goal, his turnover. Um, Again, I think what's disappointing is he's still 24 years old. This is his sixth NHL season. They've played against, as I just mentioned earlier, a plethora of first overall picks, Celebrini being the youngest and most recent of that group. And Celebrini did outshine him on home ice. Um, I think the concern for Lafreniere in my book is that he's third on the team in expected goals. But to me, expected goals means one or two things. It means, yes, they're generating a lot of chances. We saw him hit the post on a 2-on-1. He had registered two shots. He hit the post. He had a rebound opportunity and he shot a puck wide in front in the slot. So he created chances. But overall, that means to me, they didn't score, right, Steve? So expected goals to me, that's what that means. This is his game log here, just 3 points on the season. Pretty unremarkable. The overarching conversation, I don't think that's really been had yet, is that he is paid $10 million this year, 2025-26. His contract begins, it's front loaded. So he makes 2 million in base and 8 million in signing bonuses. This is the most he will make on his contract extension for the next 7 years. This is year 1. The last 3 years he makes 6 million total with the signing bonuses, total salary. The most he'll make after this is 9.5 in I think 27, 28. So this is the year, like you just signed a major contract. It's kicked in. This is the performance out of the gate. I understand that a rising tide raises all ships, but what happens when the tide is drawing out? What happens when you're not getting a lot of scoring? That's when that player who's earning 10 million should be stepping up. This isn't 7.5. That's the annual average. This is a $10 million player this year. So I don't think I was stating that because I agree with you. I don't think I was stating that Cooley to me is more disappointing than Lafreniere because I do think Cooley on a championship team is like a third liner, maybe a second liner. But Lafreniere should be a second liner or should be proving to us that he's capable of that. We saw the peak in 23-24. It really hasn't been there since. So I actually think that's a major concern now. And I feel like that happened so quickly. Now it's still early, but yeah, I did want to throw that number your way because I think 10 million's a that's a massive paycheck to be playing like this out of the gate.
Yeah, and I think when you take a look at it, it's harder for individual players to step up and perform when the team is not playing up to par. And for me, I think the main thing that I want to highlight, if there's one takeaway that I have this entire episode, is that it's just not about the Rangers remaining winless, through the first 5 home games. It's that you had a bottom feeder in the NHL standings come in and a team that finished last overall in the past 2 seasons, and they very much well could do it again this year. And you still lost. And I mentioned on the last week's episode, it's about overall trends over time. And when you take a look at it, we are allowing crushing goals late in periods, and in case you forgot, that was a staple of the Rangers undoing last year, still under a different coaching staff, but still, I don't didn't used to call it like the Steve-O curse. It's just we allow bad goals to end the half, and when you look at these recent trends, it's just I don't want to see the same elements of last year seep into this year, because we're not gonna go anywhere, you know. And the whole excitement over, Sullivan coming in and changing that culture in the first few handful of games looked like we were going to get that. And last night, we didn't look good. We looked atrocious. I thought it, at a sense, we kind of took a page right out of last year's playbook. Yeah, we were able to come back and tie the game and go to overtime. You didn't see that last year. But a lot of blown coverages, a lot of lost puck battles last night, you name it, and I think last night was probably the worst collective defensive performance of the year. Shesterkin wasn't on his best, but even when he's not on his best, defensively, we got to be better. And for me, that's not a winning recipe. So I want to ask you, is this concerning for you? Like, for this year, I know the expectation isn't that this is a Stanley Cup winning team, but there's still a pathway. This is easily we could be a wild card team. I think we're better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's had a great start, but again, I think we could be a wild card team, much better than we're playing to. So, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what you stated, the subtext is expectation. Um, I think there's extreme reactions to the loss last night, and understandably so. A ticket to MSG now is like, if I went with Jenna or you and I went together, which we will be this year, be aware, folks, content coming from that. It would cost like $300 for both of us to go. That's before a beer, that's before the train ticket. Now, is that a lot of expenses? No. But overall, it is an investment. So when fans feel that they have an investment into a premier venue for a premier club in its centennial season, it's disappointing. But we mentioned that it's 1/10 of the way through the season. It's still very early. And I also question the excitement for Mike Sullivan coming in was to kind of change the culture. That doesn't happen overnight. Um, I do feel that although some of those bad habits are seeping in, I think the mark of a bad team, a bad program in any sport is giving up scores late in a quarter, in a half, whatever it may be. Um, because you do so much work to get back into the game twice, and then you allow the other team to tie the game based on turnovers too. We didn't see like a fluky goal. Well, one by Igor, but that was a ping pong situation. I think the root of what you're saying, Steve, is expectation. Am I getting that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think you mentioned wild card. If this is going to be a wild card team, I think it comes down to the good baseball adage. It's what you do with those last 15 games or those extra 15 games. I don't think this is a team that's going to turn on the heater and in February, like we saw in 1920, like win 11 of 13 games. I think this is a team that's going to have to battle every night and it's going to go back and forth. Now, like I said earlier, I think we disagree a little bit. I think the NHL now, and Sullivan said in the press conference last night, is a league that every team has talent. Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini would be good on any team. The Chicago Blackhawks, they signed Frankie Nazar, uh, to a major contract extension before his entry level kicked in, and he is tearing it up. Chicago looks fun. They look like a good hockey team, at least good enough to compete with anyone. And I think that's the way the league's gone now. Is I think every team has enough talent to at least win a hockey game. Now, on many given nights, we're going to see a team like Calgary maybe lose pretty poorly. I don't think the Rangers will based on this system, but I think I'm saying in the long run, I'm expecting some 50-50s, some win loss situations. That's kind of what I expect. So, although there was a lot of excitement coming in, I said their ceiling was third in the Metro. I also could see how there might be for lack of better terms, growing pains or a time that it takes for this team to gel. Vincent Trocheck is injured. He was supposed to be this team's 2C. Noah Lab has been a pleasant surprise. Um, I think what disappoints me the most, since you asked, is that Igor Shesterkin's record is 2-3-2, but I think he's running away with the Vesna at the moment. 186 goals against, 930 save percentage, and a shutout. That includes last night's game that he had a 700 save percentage. So pretty incredible numbers. It pains me to see that even with good D structure, even with a marginally better goaltender than the rest of the NHL, who took a lot of heat for that contract extension, he's proved it. I think Sullivan's system is working. It just hasn't been enough scoring. And I feel like that's the most basic way to analyze this, but it's true. The dump and chase was working at times, but we're seeing that they're really not generating a lot off the rush. Scoring's been an issue, Steve. And I think that's why you and I pointed to Lafreniere before, because where is it coming from? You could play next man up, but do you have faith in next man up at this point? Vincent Trocheck out. It felt like for they won the game after he was injured, but feels like they're just obviously not scoring. And outside of just that blanket statement, how do you feel about that overall?
I think next man up applies to a team that is more advanced than we are. I don't think that mentality fits this team. Yeah, you hear that all the time online for us, but I just don't think next man up will steal you. For me, 1 to 2 games a month with this team. Fourth line comes up, has a big game. You saw it in the Penguins game on the road. Those are the type of games you see, but you're going to see that for this team. You're not going to see that every single night. For me, it comes down to the core. Again, it comes down to the core. Zibanejad, Panarin. When Vinny T comes back, ended the year off horrible last year, coming off an injury, how is he going to respond? JT, that's your core. Igor, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, he does look like a top Vezina candidate to start the year. And what's so surprising to me again is that if you told me that we're going to score 5 goals yesterday morning before the game against the San Jose Sharks, I'm betting my life savings on the Rangers to win that game. And it's getting to the point where you scored 5 goals, you scored plenty of goals at home, yet that still wasn't enough to win. And it doesn't seem like we have that winning recipe right now. And again, even with Igor, when he's gonna have an off night. That's okay. I'm okay with him having an off night here and there. He's still one of the best in the league. It's just defensively and the play around him with the core, it's just not enough, and I feel like we are making a lot of mistakes ourselves, and it's starting with to piggyback off my point of last year's play. We also start games very slowly. I don't know what it is. It's like we come out and with like a very like relaxed like preseason like approach to starting games. Like that's something that has to change as well. So yeah, you know, I don't know. A road stint is exactly what we need at this point in the season. You saw it not last year, but 2 years ago. Um, that road trip that we swept, that really set the tone for the season, and that was early on, like this point in the year. So I think this is the perfect time. For some reason, we play better on the road. It's been like that the last few seasons. Let's take this time to regroup. Let's take this time to play better defensively, to get in the corner and really win those puck battles. And let's get people going. Maybe let's get Cooley going. Let's get Panarin going. Let's get a lot of these guys going. Maybe Mika rides a hot streak. Defensively, let's collectively play a better game. Let's capitalize on high danger chances, because we've had some beautiful chances off the rush. Let's be honest, watching these games. We've gotten way more chances than we did last year up to this point in the season. So, let's take this road trip to settle down. November is going to be a very big road month. We got a lot of road games. And I like that. I think that's a perfect opportunity now. Instead of playing, 4 out of the next 6 games home, and continuing, this miserable play. I think a road trip is exactly what this team needs right now. Do you concur?
Yeah, it's funny. Like the players can say whatever, but we know that that's in their head now playing at home. Like we just know that. I think if you're the athlete and you're playing on home ice and I don't know, I don't think they've been booed off home ice. Maybe opening night, but I don't think they
Mhm.
were last night.
No, not last
But
night.
overall, like they know they're losing at home and that there's some pressure there. I think what impressed me was JT Miller. You said slow starts. I think Johnny Lazarus asked Sullivan if it wasn't him, it was another member of the media, asked him if there was anything said after the first period. Now, I always thought that was kind of a softball question because coaches will always like not tell you what was said, or they'll say like, "Oh, the players took care of it," and that's our culture, right? Especially like I covered Quinnipiac. They had veteran guys that were seniors, grad students that like they handled the locker room. It wasn't Rand's, he didn't walk in and have to give this story to get the team motivated after a period of play. But I liked that Sullivan strictly said that JT told him, I'm handling it. I've really liked JT Miller's leadership. Now, does he look like he's going to have an 100-point season like we saw in Vancouver those 2 seasons? No, I don't think so at this rate. At least through 10 through the season, he had 2 assists last night. I don't think his point total is really there or on pace. But I like that. I like that leadership because I think he is as on brand and as advertised. I think he's a player that when things start going well, his leadership's going to continue to mount. You saw after the Matt Rempe fight, he was the first guy over to tap him, give him a hug. I like that. I like that leadership. Um, with that said, Matt Rempe, I think, has looked really good on the fourth line. I still think he's got his critics. I don't think they're watching every night, and that's fair. Listen, there are players around the NHL. You and I throw on ESPN Plus, and we immediately have something to say. But the reality is, Matt Rempe's been good enough on the fourth line to play NHL games. He's injured after that fight with Reeves, which was like King Kong versus Godzilla, or like one of those, like it was like one of those monster movie fights. It was awesome. Like, Fraser Ali at center ice at MSG. I thought that rocked. In terms of entertainment value, that seemed to also not have gotten the team up on their toes immediately. I think it's a confidence thing. The big C is everything sometimes for these teams, Steve. And I agree. Maybe a road trip to gel, allow Miller's leadership to come through, maybe some results to come through will be beneficial for this team. And like you said, too, next man up. I don't know if this organization is certainly as deep as it was at a time. Yeah, you could bring Brodzinski up. Maybe if you want to give Perot a try. You and I didn't even touch upon last week about the Othmann trade cycle that just began. Elliot Friedman reported that Othmann's name has been in trade circles. So, like, who are they calling up that's going to be impact? I think this team needs another top six scorer, and I think that's the problem. And I think we're too far away from a trade deadline to answer that question. And I don't think we're deep enough into the season for Chris Drury to make a trade. We said that last year he made trades by November, but that was due to the lame duck situation with Jacob Trouba. Um, that was Larry Brooks' coin term. Just also want to mention Steve. I don't know if you saw that he's stepping away for a little while for health stuff. So we're hoping Brooks is okay because obviously he's got the inside on the team. And he's got his whole family, grandkids, and everything. So obviously, hope Brooks's health is okay. But yes, that was a major tangent, Steve-O. Um, this team right now, they're down the standings, 3, 4, and 2. The Isles are above them, 4 and 3.
Mhm.
Caps 5 and 2. Pens 6 and 2. They're the biggest surprise in the Metro. Carolina, New Jersey tied at 1, both looking like wagons in their own respects. This road trip coming up, what happens if they start this road trip off poorly? They have a bad first period, they give up leads, Igor plays well, and they lose. Um, where is your head at then? I know it's a hypothetical, but I'm curious to see where you're at.
Yeah, I think this is a very important road trip to regroup. First of all, we're playing. First up is Calgary. I'm pretty sure. They are not a good team. What are they? 1-6.
Yeah.
Like they have like 2 points. Like they are. The Sharks are better than them, and they didn't even win a game before last night. So the Calgary game, I'm looking for dominance. We really need to come out and dominate. I'm talking, a 2-3 goal lead, late in the third. That's the game we really need. I agree with you. This team needs scoring. It's too early to start talking about trade deadline, but we need to make sure that when we get to the point where it's time to start talking about the trade deadline, that we're in a position to, start maybe going after a defender and a forward. And now's the time to do that. I said on last week's episode, early in the year, this is the time to rack up wins, and not, I don't need a win every night. I need a strong performance, and we need to get to overtime because last year we didn't get to overtime. We saw some of these teams that were merchants at going to overtime and racking points up. What was it, Columbus? And the last week of the season, they were still in play for a wild card. So if we're not going to be winning games every single night, and Igor is not going to be having his best nights, and the defense is going to look piss poor like they did last night, and we need to go to overtime. And I think that's something that we've seen a little bit this year, but we need to see a little bit more of. And I think I'm okay with that. Not at home ice though. Home ice, we need to start winning games. But this road trip, I'm really looking. I'm looking to play better. I'm looking to play smarter, and I'm looking to win. We need to win. The other point that I want to bring up before I flip it back to you on the road trip is Mika. I want to talk about Mika for a second. We all know he's a difference maker, and this is the year. This year for him, he's never been in a position like this in previous seasons before. We've sat around and really beat the bush on this conversation, but yes, he's got a few goals, but none at even strength. And I need an even strength goal from him coming up on this road trip. So if I could highlight something for him on this road trip, I want an even strength goal from him. Why is that so hard? Like that was, a couple years ago, this was not a problem, at all for him. And, the last few years, it's just so weird, man. I don't think I've ever seen this from a player on the New York Rangers in the last few years, that from what I'm seeing from Mika these last like 2 seasons. It's pretty strange. So I threw a lot at you there. You could respond to Mika, you could respond to your thoughts on the road trip. What are you trying to say? What are you looking for?
I feel like Aaron Boone saying this, okay? Like they are really that close. I think I'd like to echo that. I really do. They score the overtime goal last night. What's the conversation today? Very different. They beat Minnesota at home. What's the conversation? Very different. Those are all hypotheticals. I live in the real world. Totally get it. But I think what I'm saying is they go on the road and they win a game against Calgary, maybe win 2 and 3 in a row. Very different conversation. I think the way they play is viewed better. Defense. If their scoring takes an uptick, even better. They're 31st right now in the NHL in scoring. I'm sure that changed last night, but coming into last night's game, they were just averaging a flat 2 goals a game. Mika, you're right. Mika's situation is so unique. I think it's going to take, I said it last episode, like an 80-point season for like him to be endeared by the fan base again. But at the same time, I do like his start. I I think he has shown the most of the forward group, and he scored last night. His classic spot in the power play. Hopefully the rest comes. Hopefully his confidence is there. And I love how he's answered in the post game. Like he looks pissed off. I like to see that emotion. At least give us that. I felt like last season it was like, he was mumbling into the mic and it just seemed like he was checked out from November onward. This is good to see. I think he's embraced that the team around him has changed. I get the sense he's embraced the situation, which is a good thing. And they're going to need his goal scoring ability, that's for sure. So, although at the moment I'm saying this, right, October 24th, I don't think we can like sit here right now and pick and choose when a guy is scoring. Like, listen, 2 years ago when they needed even strength scoring, they won the President's Trophy. They were in a heated series with the Panthers. That I understand. Like at that point, I get it. But right now, I think not to say we're asking too much, but let's see the team gain some momentum, gain some confidence, and then if he hasn't scored an even strength goal, then I'll be openly critical. But at the moment, I think whatever way they're going to come right now, let's have it. I mean, if they're off the stick of Taylor Raddysh looking like the dueling hat tricks last night, fine. I'm okay with
Mhm.
it. Legacy game for him. Honestly, he's been actually a pretty pleasant surprise in my book so far this year. And maybe next man up was the wrong term, but they're going to have to get scoring from a lot of different guys. And it's from, I think, players that might not be accustomed to this role or situation they're in. So uh, that's kind of where I'm looking at this road trip. And I'm sure we'll see Jonathan Quick too, Steve O.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was just about to say that. We got Calgary coming up. You got Vancouver. You got Edmonton, and then you got Seattle. And out of those teams, um, Seattle's been probably the best team to start the year. I We had a close game against Edmonton. On home ice. That was still a very controlled game that we very well could have won that game. But again, Calgary, not a team that's come out and looked great. Vancouver, same boat. JT Miller going back home. That's an interesting
Yeah.
game. But Seattle's been probably the best team to start the season so far. So if you had to ask me, that's probably your toughest game. Edmonton's always tough to play on the road. That one freaking game from a few years ago. I just get flashbacks from. That's always a tough game to go and play. But I like that we come out and we play Calgary and Vancouver in these first two games. I think that yeah, but we played the Sharks at home, and again, you couldn't walk away with the 2 points. But again, road is different. Put that game behind you, come out, and it all starts with that Calgary game. Set the tone of this road trip. And listen, if maybe you find a way to beat Calgary 4-2 and you go and you play Vancouver and maybe you win yourself in overtime, I think if we could find a way to win an overtime game ourselves, that is just such a confidence boost. I think that is really what this team needs. We really we need to win in overtime, or we need to steal a game. A game we were down 3-1, come back tied and win late. That's what this team needs, I think. And are we going to get it or not? That's the question. We can be having a very different conversation here next week on the next epi, depending on what these results are going to be. Because if we come out and we lose to Calgary, I mean, this is not shaping up to be, to hit any of our predictions, that we had. So it's tough. What out of the games that I just listed, which one are you looking at?
Which game?
Yeah, on the road.
Boy, I think you have to start with game one against Calgary. Like, that's another game. We talked about San Jose. I mentioned at the top of the episode, every team's got talent, but a team that's, again, I also understand like San Jose did not win a game this season. Calgary is 1-6. You have to win these games, especially if you want to start bringing, swinging momentum in your favor. Uh, that's ideal. And I think always, like you said, the big one is circles Edmonton. Like I think last year, the Edmonton game following that game was the trade rumor with Kreider and Truba, and then kind of derailed a lot. Um, I also find when the Rangers are in those games, they're usually high scoring up there for some reason. So I usually circle that one. Obviously, prime time, you got two of the best players in the world, the best goaltender in the world right now. So it's always an exciting watch. And I thought they handled them well at Madison Square Garden, despite the fact they lost to them. Was that last week, 2 weeks ago? So those are the games I'm circling. But before we wrap, Steve-O, Two things. One, looking like Macklemore with the Sharpa today. I love it. Different for you. Different for you. And then I see a Centennial jersey, which obviously those sold out pretty quick. Who we got?
Who do you think I got? Take a guess.
I'm gonna go with JT.
You're right. It is JT. I wasn't able to jump on the first wave of it, but it opened back up for like a split second the next day, and I was able to get it, and I was so close. I wanted JT so bad. He's such a dog. I love him with the C. Oh, but then when it closed, I was like, I was so close to getting Vinny. And I'm lucky. I'm happy that I didn't, because JT opened back up again, and I gotta say, in person, like it just looks amazing. But that vibe is gonna get killed in a split second if we don't start winning games at home. Like if we come out wearing these beauties and we play like trash, like what the hell? I'm gonna return it. So, but I'm excited. I'm much. Which one? I mean, this isn't even a question. Out of these two, which one do you prefer? These two
Oh, the
jerseys.
left. I would say Centennial every
Of course,
day. Every day.
of course. I saw somebody online that was saying like, I prefer the these ones. I was like, what the hell? Go root for the Islanders.
I know. I'll tell you, like, I'm just not a fan of the thirds. I just think the Rangers are so classic. They come out with so little that I feel like when they do come out with a jersey, I want to see something that's like classic or has its roots in history. I'm a nerd like that.
Me too.
I like seeing though, like around the NHL, I don't mind some newer styles. Like, okay, I'm all for that. Some of them really work. Um, but like stealth mode sharks, love that one. So dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the Rangers coming out with it. It also came out like the same year that they had the Stadium Series jerseys. I would have liked if they wore those more than once. They knew that the 100 season was 2 years later, so it just felt like weird timing to come out with a third jersey. And I also always loved that the Ferguson jersey in the 70s, exactly, money, right, Fanatics. But I also like the Ferguson jersey was the only one with the shield on it. So I felt like although it's cool that they have the Rangers shield, yeah, I'm taking Centennial, man. I think the Centennials are like one of my favorite jerseys that I've seen from the Rangers, outside of maybe the retro Liberties.
Yeah, but the quality, you're not a big Fanatics guy. I'm pretty sure, right? I'm not a big Fanatics guy. Like they don't make them like they used to. Like it's just
I don't think the apparel they make is very good.
yeah. Who's design? Get us in there. What the heck? Who's designing these things? I totally agree with you on that. But we'll
Oh,
see.
just got news.
Ooh, all
Just
right,
got
break it.
big news on the pod. Okay. So
Finally.
we're gonna have to wrap with this, Steve. I'm sorry. Brennan Othmann was recalled from the Hartford Wolfpack.
Alrighty. What's
I
your
think
first thought
all
on
right,
that?
let's talk
Fresh.
real quick. I think this is his last chance to prove himself in the organization.
Ooh, that's a take in itself. Um, I think I it's tough because he hasn't really. It gets to the point where when you start busting these guys back and forth, like it's just not the expectation that was set. Like you just can't prove yourself, and I don't know if I trust this team right now to throw him in there, and he's gonna have success. Like it's just such. I don't want to say this is such a broken team, but we're playing like such a broken team, and you know, I really wish he would have found the back of the net at the end of last year. I think that would have been such a confidence boost coming into this year, and to come up. It's a valid point. I think his value diminished a little bit. I think there's no uh, there's no doubt in that. But I don't know, man. Is he really um, you know, a key piece of this future? I think, I was a little disappointed in him, following his stint towards the end of last year. So I'm with you. Yeah, like, again, we need to see results Otherwise, he's just going to be another name in the long list of players that we just can't develop.
This means three things in my book. One, with the trade stuff, like Arthur Staple put it really good the other day on X. He said, like your 14th best forward isn't really going to garner that much trade value. I agree with you. I know Friedman talked about it on 32 Thoughts. I would definitely tune in to when Friedman talks about Othmann because he's hit it peg on too. Like, yeah, he could have some value, but you know, basically teams would be looking at him as this almost like a reclamation. What are you really trading for that? Two, what this says to me is Matt Rempe is going to be out for a little while. So that's really disappointing because he only fought in one fight this year. That was it. And he was injured from it. And I thought he was playing a lot better hockey. He even talked about the maturity in the practice before the game. I think the morning skate, he told reporters that he really took his game seriously, and you could see that. I thought he was very effective. I think he was top 5 in hits in the NHL before last night's game. And three, Othmann's going to have some rope here. Where does he go in the lineup? And this is what I'm curious to ask. I think he could either immediately replace Sheary. Maybe they bump up and shake up the lines and and give him his best chance to prove himself. He's going to be on this road trip, it seems. Again, we don't know all the details, folks. We just got this info too, but I would speculate that they're going to put him in a role that he can succeed. Last year, he was on the fourth line. And he didn't register a point in 25 games. So, throwing it to you, where do you think he goes in the lineup? I'm hoping they put him in a spot he succeeds.
Me too. Well, I think last year he was like a pinball. He was thrown around too many different positions, and when he was put with Panarin, there was a little bit of an opportunity, but I would have to agree with you. I think maybe we do put him in Sheary's spot and maybe put him alongside JT and see if we could get some cooking, because JT is such a catalyst. It doesn't matter who he's playing with. So yeah, maybe doing that. I'd kind of, for me, the first line is set. Obviously he's not being put there, but I want to keep riding with Panarin and Mika. So yeah, I'd agree with you. We'll see. Where do you think? Not where you think where you would put him, but where do you think Sullivan's gonna put him?
This is going to talk about this fan base is a tinderbox right now. That it's going to be crazy. It's going to be bad when that news comes out, because I think it's either two things. I think he replaces Sheary and finds his way in the top 6, and he plays with JT Miller. He has a physical edge. He can score. He definitely has a strong shot. Maybe not the best skater, and we know that. I know you mentioned, expectations from the point he was drafted to now. I think the organization is looking at this opportunity and saying, you have a stretch here. This is either going to be like Rick Nash in 2018. You're just going to accrue trade value for us, or it's going to be a real opportunity to prove himself. And I think he's going to go in with that mentality. So I think Mike Sullivan, I hope it doesn't leave a blemish on him this early in the season, but I think he has to put him on that second line with JT, because, you're going to put him on the third line with Parsonen, Raddysh, Carrick at the moment. They shifted the bottom 6 last night, so I don't know. Maybe they'll really shake things up. But boy, is this going to be something to watch now, Steve? We're going to get this clipped and up too, because this is going to be something that I think we may even have to preview the next game. There might be a lot to unpack before then. So exciting news to end the pod, Steve. We're literally just going to wrap.
Yeah, a little pause, and finally something that drops during the pod. I feel like it's the minute after the pod ends that we're getting news. Finally something to go in our favor. Hopefully things go in the Rangers' favor coming up in the next few weeks. That'll wrap us up here on this episode of Puck Talk CS. As always, follow the socials, the YouTube, the gram, at Puck Talk CS. Tons of content coming your way. Things are just getting cooking on the air, so we got you tuned. We got you. Stay tuned. And always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.